Hello, this is Pajama Man, and welcome back to another episode. And today we're going to talk about the file input and output again. So I'm going to continue on with that subject. Before we just talked about the concepts of file input and output, but today I will go into what you see on the screen. So today I will talk about the write method, which is what you see on the screen. And then another source file that I have that will have the read method and the read line method. And that's all that we'll talk about today. So, for what we see on the screen, I changed it a little bit so you can update it on your screen as well. So, starting from the top, I'm defining a function named main. So you've seen this a lot, def main parentheses colon. So now I'm defining the function main. And then down here I call the function main, and that's where it'll run the program. It'll call the main and then run everything everything inside of this main function. So starting from line 1 of the main function, we have our variable out file which will be assigned the object that is going to be returned from this open built-in function, the built-in function open for Python. So this built-in function open will return an object, a file object, which is for the file that it represents, which is names.txt. And I'm going to also pass another argument, which is the write mode, or using the W. So I'm going to use the write mode. I'm going to write out to this file. If it doesn't exist, it'll create the file for me, but if it does exist, then it'll overwrite that file. In which case my file exists, so it will overwrite the names.txt in my directory up here in my YT folder. And so after creating the object, we open the file, right? So we open, and then we do a processing the file here. And then we finally close the file once we're done, because that way when we close the file, when we're done with the file, we can close it and free up memory and in the memory, so to speak. So open, process, and close. And so starting here, I have a variable named unique, which will be given a string from this built-in input function, which you've seen a lot before, in which case we pass to its argument the prompt. And so the cursor will be right here. When I run the program, it'll wait for keyboard input, and then when I press enter, or when you press enter, it'll be assigned to the variable unique when the program runs. And after that, so this will contain the string, because that's what input, the built-in function input, returns a string always. Down here, I'm going to use the object, which I got from the open built-in function up here, which represents the names.txt. So object dot, the object that I'm going to work with has defined methods, or you can think of it as functions. But for now and later on, I'll just call them methods, because they belong inside of an object. So a function that belongs inside of an object is called a method. In a nutshell. So object dot inherited method write, I'm going to pass the string lessee \n into this write method that's inherited inside of the object out file. And what this method write will do is pass this argument string, which is lessee \n, in which case the \n is the escape sequence, which will create a new line for the file. So it'll write this string to the file, and the file will be, well, it'll be written to the file name names.txt. It'll be written there. Always make sure to put in the extension so it knows which file, which type of file it's going to output to. So make sure to put in .txt, which I'm pretty sure you did, so that should be no problem. And just on the second line, it's doing the same thing. We're using the third line it's going to use the method write again, and it's going to write out the new string, including \n, and write to the file. So it's going to write 3 strings to the file, and then finally down here I'm writing what I assigned to the variable unique, which is the string that that you inputted if you ran the program. It'll be assigned to here. This will be down here. It'll be written to the file, to the names.txt, plus using the concatenation operator, which means that if we use a concatenation operator, on the left side will be a string and on the right side will be a string. So these two will actually be concatenated together into one. So if I put in up here yummy, then down here it would be like I said, yummy \n, but I used the concatenation symbol because this was inputted from the keyboard. From the keyboard there is no \n characteristic, so that's why I have to use the concatenation symbol. If I press enter on the keyboard, it'll just be done with the prompt. If I put in a literal \n in the prompt, which you'll see me do when I run this, it'll take it literally and it won't take it as a new line character. So that's why I use the concatenation and then the new line after it in this setup, if it's input from the above, which it is. So inputting from the keyboard, I have to put in the \, so I can go to the new line. And after doing the process to the file, I then close the file, and that's it. And then obviously call the function here, because from what we see above, we defined it, but we must call it in order for it to work. So define first and then call. And let's run the program. Yeah, so if I put in what I just said and press enter, it's done working inside of the Python source code. And if we go to the text file, which will be created, this file will be created in the same directory as my source code, which I ran, because I only specified a file name. If I specified a path, then it'll be created in that path, but since I didn't specify a path, its default will be in its current directory. So you should see yours in your current directory as well. And as you can see, here's the output. Also, the input that I inputted will be in the file as well. And I'll rerun this and I'll show you the part where I was talking about concatenation. So if I put in the same prompt, but I decided to put in a \n for some reason, it will overwrite the file because we have it in write mode, so it'll overwrite it. And here it'll overwrite and it'll give me the \n. It'll take whatever you put inside of the variable here from the input. It'll take it literally. So even though here it'll represent let me think, it'll represent yummy \n, you would think that it would do 2 new lines, but it doesn't. Surprisingly enough, it doesn't. So just keep that in mind. It takes it literally as a string when you pass in a variable. Even though it has a \n, it takes it literally. So always use the concatenation symbol if you want to put in a string afterwards. So just keep that in mind. So I'll close out of this, and then we'll look at, there's one more thing. We'll look at the read file. This is a file that I made in the read mode. So instead of using the W mode, I'm using the R mode, which is short for read. Inside of the main file, right up here, we have this first line here. We have a variable named infile, which will contain the object that represents the file named names.txt. So using the same file that I created with the write mode, except now it's going to be in the read mode, or R for read. and the built-in open function, after passing the arguments, will return an object that represents names.txt. It'll be assigned to endFile, this object file. And so the next line, we're going to use the object.inherited method read, which will read everything from the file. So everything, every single line in the file, and it will assign this. It'll assign this huge string. Potentially, it could be huge. It'll assign everything in the content of the file, and it will return this method read will return the whole content of the file as a string. So that whole content of the file that is a string will be assigned to the variable whole file. And then I close the file. And there's a reason that I do that. And also I open the file again and I do some other operations. Down here, same syntax as the above, but something new. I use a new variable, and this variable will contain only a string returned by the method read line. So this method read line inherited from the file object in file. This readline method will return a string, which is the first line of the file. So that first line of the file, which is a string, will be assigned to line 1 variable. And then I close the file. And so the reason why I first opened and then I closed the file, and then I reopened the same file, and then I closed the file. I had to do that because here in the first time I opened the file names.txt, I read the whole content of the file. So what's called a read position in a file, the read position after returning the whole content from the method read, the read position in the file names. So if it's executing line by line, it'll open it. So open this and read mode. Okay, we're in read mode. The read position will be here, where this blinking symbol is. So the read position is here. Down here we use the object.inherited method read. It'll read the whole content. Now the read position is now down here. Okay, so the read position is at the very end of the file. And so after using the read method, I close out of the file, so that way I can reset the read position here back to the beginning when I open the same file again. So that's why you see it twice. So down here when I say infile.readLine, it will read where the read position is, which is here, and it'll read the line. So read the line, and there's an implicit \n here, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So it'll read the line Leslie \n, assign it to line 1 here. So this one will be Leslie \n. And the read position, before I close the file, which I'll get out of the file completely, before I close it, the read position will be right here. So if I were to call this read line again, the next line, line 2, if I call in the object.inherited method read line, it will read the next line below it, because that's where the read position will be on the next line. And so it sees this method again, it will read the line completely and assign to line 2. And if I put in the line 2, which I'll do that, so you'll see that it actually exists down here. So it'll read the next line, and it'll move the read position to here after the first prompt, and then to here after the second prompt. So it'll be ready for the next prompt. And yeah, so using the read position, just know where it is in your mind, where the read position will be. So that is the read line method, and the read method. The read method returns the whole content of the file, and the read position will be at the very end, in which case you can't read anything else because you read the whole content. And then down here, I read line, I opened it again so I can move the read position back up to the beginning of the file. I read the line, I read the first line, lessee \n to here, and then the next one will be gray \n to line 2, because it's reading off of where the read position will be in the file. And so it reads a line including \n and returns as a string. Yeah, so the read line will also return as a string, and the read will also return as a string. So everything is being returned as a string, and from the write method, everything is written to the file as a string. So read from, written to is as a string always. And I close out of the file because I'm done with it, so I can continue on. Now in the file itself, the file actually has an implicit new line at the end of the line. So at the end of the line there's an implicit \n. At the end of this line there's an implicit \n, another \n, and a new line down here. So new line here, new line here, new line here, new line here, and then at the very bottom down here there is a end of file marker at the end of this file. So you can't see it, but it's there. There's an end of file marker, and at the end of each line there will be a new line as well. So there's always that implicit new line here, 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 and the end of file marker at the end of the file, which is the reason why it's called EOF or end of file in the first place. So that's where you get the \n. When you read the line, it'll give me the \n. So after doing all of this, opening and then reopening and then closing, down here I'm going to print what I assign to this to the variable host file and line 1 and line 2. So if we run this program, it will give me what I want. So down here it'll give me the whole content of the file itself, so everything inside of here. And then down here I'm using the string. The string is assigned to line 1, which is the first line, which is lessee, but I'm using the string's inherited method named rstrip, which what it'll do, it will strip what's on the right side of the string, which is implicitly, as I said, everything has a \n inside of it. Even though you can't see it in the file, it's there. So when you read from the file, it will have this implicit \n. So I want to get rid of that, as I specified right here. So in order to get rid of what's on the right side of the string, I'm going to use the inherited method rstrip, or short for or long for write strip. So the R stands for write strip. I'm stripping on the right side of the string, line 1, the \n. So that's what I'm stripping off. And down here I'm going to print line 2, and I'm not going to strip it off. So you can see the comparison from the two. So I will run this program. So we can run this program. Running the program. There we go. So the output of the program, if we look at it side by side, you saw my source file, so it'll output my source file. So the content of the whole file after reading everything, so read the whole content, and now I'm outputting the whole content. The whole file is starting from the first line lessee, and it has an implicit \n, so that's why you see this new line. It goes to new line because of the implicit \n that's inside of the source file. Right here, gray, the \n as well, yini, \n, and my name, and the explicit \n, which this whole string is taken as a literal string, and then there's an implicit \n which makes it go to a new line. So as you can see, the whole content right here including the implicit \ns from the source file, or not from the source file, the text file. So that's the whole content. Now the next one is, the first line is, so the first line is colon, and then separate the two. Then we have the first line, it's outputting the first line only, lessee, and what I'm doing is I'm stripping the implicit new line from lessee. So I'm stripping the new line from lessee right here. So I'm stripping it, I'm removing it completely. So that way, when I output the next one, print line 2, it won't be printed to the next line. So first line is here. The reason why it's actually going to the next line is because the print statement actually has a let's see. So we read this. So we read this print. The local variable end has a \n. So at the end of the prompt, which I put in right here, it will have a \n anyways. So that's why you see that it is going to a new line. So down here it's going to start again, and it's going to print gray, but it's going to go to the new line as well because gray has the new line. So yeah. So that's why it's still going to the new line, but down here gray has the implicit new line as well. So that's why it's outputting the new line and ending the cursor right here. That's where it ends the program, and I'm outside of the program. So right here, if I put in the inherited method rstrip, and then put in what I want to strip away from the string in the line 2, so I want to strip away the new line, the implicit new line. Save that, and I'm gonna hope this works. There we go. So now you don't have that extra space because I stripped from the new line. As you can see, there is no new line. So you can see that right there. So that's why I use the rstrip, to get rid of this extra space that is created. So, and that's it. So what we looked at or talked about today was the continuation of file input and output, roughly as a whole, and we talked about the write method, so the original file that I had beforehand. So we talked about the write method, and then we talked about the read line, so read only one line using the R mode, and using the write method in the write mode, and also using the read line if you want to read one line at a time. Remember where your read position is going to be after calling the method over and over and over again. Just make sure to know where your read position is going to be, because that's what's going to determine what's going to be returned from the method itself. So the read position, read line, write, read up here, read the whole content. Make sure to open the file first. Make sure to end it with the extension, the necessary extension, and do some process with the file, and then close the file once you're done. So make sure to open, process, close the file. Make sure to close the file. And then I outputted everything just to prove that that everything worked. And also the write method as well. And that's it. So let me do actually one more thing. If we go back to this write method down here, I'm going to actually just get rid of most of this, and I'm going to show you actually how to write a new file that's not just a .txt. I'm going to write out a let's see, I'm going to write out in my current folder source.py. So we're going to create a source file, source.py, in the write mode. So it's got to be in the write mode because this is a new file. I got to create it. And using the write method, I'm going to say out file, which is a file object, dot inherited method write, and I'm going to write out, what was the hello world? So I'm going to write out print, what we normally do to output hello world, and make sure to put in the backslash double quote so it takes it as a escape sequence, and then say hello, if I spell it right, hello world, and we'll write this out. Let's see, we'll write this out. So the output, it'll write print parentheses double quote hello world double quote parentheses to the file, which the file is the Python source file because I ended it with a .py. So I changed the file extension to .py to see so that the so that it knows to output to be a source file, a Python source file. And this should work. Probably not, but let's see if it works. So it outputted it, and we go to my folder and see that here's the source file, and hopefully it works. Probably not. Oh, then it pauses. So it's happening really fast. So yeah, again, the whole point of doing this is to just show you that you can write out to a file other than just a text file. You can do it for other files as well, if it makes sense to write out to a file. I mean, you can't write out to a executable file, right? That doesn't make sense, because an executable file isn't just a text file. It's something more complex than that. So just make sure whatever extension you use, it has to make sense what you're actually writing out to that file. It has to make sense what you're writing out to the file is what's going to be accepted from that file as well. So what I'm writing out, it makes sense because that's what the extension accepts. So so using the input function, it should just pause the program and let me do this, but maybe not. Maybe it won't let me do it. So updating the source file, it'll overwrite it because I'm using the mode write, or W. And system escape. Oh, that's weird. But if we open this file, let's see, open this file, edit with idle, it'll give me the same source hello world. There we go. But I didn't put in a new line, so that's probably why. And there we go. So I got my source file right here. Except I let the computer write it out for me, or I let the program that I created write out the source file for me right here. And it should output, right? Yeah. There we go. And then end the file. So, I was supposed to run it inside of the modules. So, there you go. So, you just learned how to create a text file and also a source file with the .py extension. And that's it. So I'll see you in the next tutorial.